Last episode, I built a library that holds every librarian enchanted book trade. This episode, I'm going to use those enchanted books to create maxed out diamond armor. Of course, I have to make it look pretty too, so I'll be adding an ARMORSMITH building to our island that holds all of our armorer villagers and provides a place where we can upgrade all of our armor in. And I think the first thing that we need to do is head over to our iron farms. Then I'll just need to AFK this for some emeralds and for some iron. I spent the next couple of hours here trading all of our iron out with our toolsmith for some emeralds. And now that we have a good chunk of both of these, we can head back to our island and quickly set up our usual chest monster right here, because I think this empty space right next to both of the trading halls will be plenty of room and look really good for our ARMORSMITH. Now I just need to set up all of these. And this temporary base of operations for all of our building supplies should be ready. Now that we've got that out of the way, it's time to start using some of all of the resources that I collected. First things first, we're going to need 3 more anvils, and then next we can take all of our emeralds and some of our books. Then we can trade both the emeralds and the books for all of the enchanted books that we're going to need. I've already made a list of all the books I'm going to need. I'll put that list on the screen so you guys can see what I'm trying to accomplish as well. And luckily, we already have a couple of these books from when I was trading with the villagers initially to lock in their trades. And out of all of the book trades that we did initially, we got Respiration 2, Feather Falling 3, Mending, Protection 2, and Aqua Affinity already, which isn't much, but it still is a really good start. So I'm going to grab one of my anvils, and I think I'm going to start working on the main 4 enchantment books that we're going to need. Starting off with our protection books, these are going to be very expensive. This guy is only selling Protection 3, which means that to get Protection 4, we're going to have to take our anvil and combine both of those into a Protection 4 book. And we're gonna need a total of 4 of those books. So let's get 6 more here, and hopefully our emerald supply lasts through this. Then we can put them all together in the anvil. And our Protection 4 books are officially checked off the list. Next up, we're going to need 4 Thorns books. And luckily this guy sells Thorns 3, which is the highest enchantment that we can get. So we'll just need 4 of those. And that is our second biggest book requirement complete. And before we move on to the other 2, yes, if you're wondering, we are just doing the armor enchantments today because I have another plan for all of our tools. You'll just have to wait and see on that one though. Now next up, we need to get a bunch of these unbreaking books, and specifically I think we need 8. And luckily those weren't too expensive, and now we can just go through, maybe not combine them with mending, but combine them with themselves to make unbreaking 3 books. And there we go, all 4 of them are ready to go on our armor pieces. And speaking of mending, that is the very last core book that we're going to need. So if we go over here, wake this guy up, we should be able to buy 3 more mending books. We have all of our core books completed, that being Protection 4, Thorns 3, Unbreaking 3, and Mending. All of those are going to go on each of our armor pieces. Now all we have left is 5 random books. One of them, Aqua Affinity, we already have. So if we grab 1 more Respiration book, actually I will be right back. I really was hoping that emerald supply would be enough, but we have a lot of books, to be fair. Just need a few more emeralds from these guys. Alright, now with a little bit more emeralds, we should be able to buy 1 more Respiration book. Then we can just put those together in the anvil, and that one is checked off. And now the very last 2 that we need is Feather Falling and Depth Strider. And with these 2 combined, that is officially all of the kind of random books that we needed. So now we can come over here to our chest monster and put them with these. And that is all of the books that we're going to need to put on our armor for fully maxed out armor. But before I can do that, like I said, we have to make this nice and pretty. So we need to start working on building our ARMORSMITH. So first things first, we're going to need all of the materials for it. And I already gathered stuff that was left over from previous projects. But as you can tell from this list, there is going to be a lot more that we need to gather. So like usual, let's take it into a super fast gathering montage. I started at the top of the list, going from the largest amount we needed to collect to the smallest. I stripped all of the leftover spruce logs we had from the last build, and then started on the first mining trip of the resource gathering session. I got a ton of coal and some iron, but I was mostly looking for copper. Once I emerged from the cave, I put both the coal and the copper into the furnace to smelt. I then used that copper to make some copper stairs and put those as well as the stripped spruce logs and leftover bone blocks back in the chest. I made a ton of spruce planks and ran out of our leftover spruce, so I had to end up chopping down some new trees. I turned all of that into some trapdoors. Then I took a mining trip to the Nether because I was completely out of blackstone. I used all of that to make some polished blackstone bricks, slabs, and some stairs. Now that we had the main items fulfilled, I moved on to the medium items that we didn't need that many of. I went on a second overworld mining trip where I gathered some more iron, gold, and some copper ore. I wasn't planning on smelting these ones though because I wanted to make some ore blocks for decoration. After crafting all of those up, I was officially on to the miscellaneous items, which I was mostly using for decor, so I only needed a few of every item. I collected, traded for, and crafted tons of things like campfires, lanterns, cauldrons, smithing tables, anvils, chains, science beds, some magma blocks, a grindstone, and finally, some iron trapdoors, which officially finally completed our material gathering segment. And now that we've got all of our resources that we're going to be needing in all of these chests, we can finally start working on this ARMORSMITH. And obviously we are going to need it because all of my armor is starting to break. So first things first, we can go into our schematic menu, then we can place our ARMORSMITH schematic, and if I can find myself a stick here, we can start moving this around. Now this is gonna look a little wonky, but I believe this is the direction we want it. Yep, just like that. And then we should be able to take it and drag it over in this direction, maybe a little bit farther back. Hopefully something like this should be a good spot for it. I just want to make sure that it doesn't really block the view of our trading hall here. And then zooming out here so I can show you, I'm eventually going to be putting a circle area right here surrounding a fountain. And then I want to have like little pop-up shops. So hopefully with the ARMORSMITH being all the way over there, it shouldn't get in the way of all those plans. And then we can also make sure that it goes into ground level. And then that way it shows just the very first layer that we have to build. And once I'm done with that, we can go on to the next layer and then the next, with a couple pit stops. I think we're gonna put these guys right here with the other llama. Now I think that's enough distractions, so let's start building the first part of this ARMORSMITH. I try my best with each of our builds to make the outsides all mostly match up with each other so that they're all cohesive. However, on the insides, I get full creative freedom, so I like to make them all unique to match whatever function the build is. In this case, I added a ton of ores, campfires, workstations, etc. to get that ARMORSMITH vibe we were looking for. Side note, someone needs to get that llama into a spitting competition because he has pure endurance and dedication. Dude made it through the entire time lapse without even stopping. If you guys have any funny names for him, let me know in the comments and I'll make sure to name him in the next couple of episodes. Now before we finish building the other half of the ARMORSMITH, and of course adding our villagers into the inside, I think it's time we take a little bit of a break for the quality of life segment. Every episode I like to either add something completely new and random and small into the world, or fix something small that we left behind in a past episode. And in this episode, we're going to need two things. One is a name tag for the librarian in our last episode, which should be still hanging up on the ladder. This guy was being all funny and spinning in the corner, so I figured he's such a character and you guys loved him, he might as well have his own name. And don't worry, I added a trapdoor so that no zombies can get in here and hurt Gerald. And next up on the list, we need to tackle this little path right here. Like I said, I eventually want some sort of fountain or clock tower in the center of this town, which leaves the path going right through it. And my chest monster. We're not going to talk about that though. So I'm thinking if we cut off the path right about here, and now that we have all of those quality of life items done, and finally got some armor pieces on because I realized I was wearing none, and frankly gold and leather is better than nothing, it's time to finally start finishing up the second part of our ARMORSMITH because, I mean, let's be real, I need it. This is the point in my building style where it actually starts looking like the thing that I'm trying to build, and I'm really starting to enjoy how the color palette draws your eyes upwards, going from a nice neutral spruce to a bright layer of bone block, and then finally a pop of color from the copper. And luckily the llama has calmed down for this time lapse. And now that we have literally 1 golden carrot left to our name, our ARMORSMITH is officially complete. And before we start putting our ARMORSMITH villagers in here, I want to give you a little bit of a tour of the first floor. Now we definitely do not have enough armor, obviously, to put on all of these armor stands, but I want it to look like the shop is just selling some armors right as you enter. I've made sure to put a bunch of little piles of all of our ores that they're going to be smelting down for the armor, and of course they've got a big old furnace right here to use that ore in. And these little cubby holes right in here are where our armorers are going to go. And then heading back here, don't mind that I haven't finished the floor, we've got a lot of storage back here, and I figured this can be where we store all of our ores, extra armor, valuables, things like that. And then over in this corner, I've got 2 shelves full of some ores and some more storage, and one of these ladders actually works to go all the way up to the 2nd floor. But we're not quite there yet. We still need our armorer villagers. Then I can give you the tour of the 2nd floor. Nice llama, good llamas. Good. While we're over here, we might as well grab some more golden carrots since we are very running low. Then we can also grab 2 of our villagers over here. I think the best way to do this is just going to be to set up a minecart track. Then we can go through and add some powered rails. And now we just need something to catch the villagers. Now if we open the gate and let them in, we should be able to just grab them like that. And now that this guy is in place, we can lock him in and then let go of the minecart. And now he is officially, oh, hold up, I'm smart. Blast furnace is what we need, not that one. My bad. Now he should be an armorsmith, not a toolsmith. That is for next episode. So now we've got our armorsmith. We just need to reroute this to the other side now and grab ourselves another villager. Then again, we just lock him in and remove his minecart. This is 100% easier to do just these 2 guys versus that entire library full of villagers. There's roughly 36 in there, if you haven't seen that episode. And now that we have 2 of our armorer villagers, first of all, we can clean this railroad mess up. And second of all, I can finally give you guys the tour of the 2nd floor. So there's 2 ways to access it. There's that first little ladder inside that I showed you, or you can just go through the front stairs. And this is where the ladder comes out. Now up here we've got giant piles of iron and of course copper, since that's what the majority of all of our houses are built out of here. And the star player is the giant furnace that they have to smelt all of the ore. And of course you can't forget about the little forge that they have over here. Everything comes out nice and smelted from this hole, and then they mess with it a little bit more in here. And then finally right here is the forge where they can kind of smack it around. I'm just making up words, to be honest. I have no idea how medieval forges work. Basically they heat it up in this area, they can cool it down in the water right here, and then right here is where they smack the sword, make it all pretty on all of these anvils. And if you get an enchantment that you don't want, I also have this disenchanting room right over here where I hung a couple of grindstones and of course another furnace. Can't have too many furnaces in an armorsmith. And you might be noticing that I am missing a majority of the armor that I already put on. My legs broke because they had like 2 HP, but I added these 2 right here just to show that they're building some sort of armor on the table, which means we're gonna have to get some more armor for ourselves, but that's alright, because that is the next step. So we can go ahead and take all of our iron and head over to the iron farms where apparently this is broken. Either way, we just need to sit here and collect a bunch of iron while AFK so that we can then use it to trade with our armorsmiths. I will see you guys in a few hours when these guys are finally maxed out. Alright, these guys are officially maxed out, at least this one is. This one, not so much. But this one also is maxed out to the point where we have every single armor piece available to us. So I figured that was good enough. And I also made sure to collect emeralds for us to buy all of these armor pieces, so we can go ahead and do that now. We can get the boots, the legs, the helmet, and finally the chest piece, with 25 diamonds left over. Now that we have that full diamond set readily available to us whenever we need it, we can take it up here into the disenchantment room, and I'm sure these enchantments are all pretty fine. Got like protection, unbreaking on most of these, and projectile protection on the boots. And that would be fine and dandy if we had just regular diamond armor that we wanted to be wearing, but we have all of these enchantment books that we prepared from the library to add on to our diamond armor, which I believe is going to take a lot of levels. And luckily we already have one really good way of earning some XP. That is going to be stopping by the skeleton spawner and harvesting all of the skeletons, which will give us XP and will also give us bones for our next project. So starting off, we're going to work on our helmet first, and we can bring these up into the ARMORSMITH, into the anvil, and start enchanting these together. And I believe for optimal level use, we're supposed to combine this with thorns first, and then we can combine that with the tube book with Aqua, Affinity, and Unbreaking 3. And then that with the protection 4 and mending. And of course we're already running out of levels, hold on. Which means it's time to head back down to the skeleton farm. Then we can just put those back together. And finally we can add respiration 3. Then once I get that done, we just need to add all of the rest of our enchantments to our armor pieces. And with that final enchantment, that is every single one of our armor pieces completely enchanted. Now, we're missing a couple things. Obviously, we don't have Swift Sneak on the leggings. I haven't really explored any of the Deep Dark yet, and not planning on doing that so far. And I think we're also missing one more enchantment on the boots, which is Soul Speed, which we have to go get from Piglins in the Nether, I believe. And again, just like the other enchantment, not really so interested in doing that at the moment. So as of right now, this is the most maxed out gear that we can get. That means that this project is officially complete. We've done a ton of stuff in this episode, most importantly being building up this entire ARMORSMITH, which I'm very happy with how it turned out. I think that both the smokestacks on these two sides makes them have a lot of personality and movement that some of the other builds are kind of missing. And of course the quality of life segment in this episode was this big circle right down the center, and I'm super excited to fill this up with a bunch of market stalls later on in a couple of episodes. So with everything finished in this episode, I really hope that you enjoyed watching, and if you did, then consider subscribing, because I would love to see you guys in the next video. And speaking of next videos, here's a couple that I think that you would enjoy.